and it seems to be working. And I know I've already tested my audio. I know you can hear me, so that's good. Can you see the
Yes.
screen?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. Since we're recording, or since we are now recording, I'll kind of repeat what I said earlier. Today, since it is not the end of module one, it's just the end of, well, it's a little bit past the end of week one, but this meeting is about the end of week one. So there was a glitch in Moodle and My Online. I'm supposed to get an email every time someone submits a discussion,
Yeah.
but I haven't received any of those emails. And I just assumed, at first, I just assumed many people hadn't done the discussions yet. But then I just went and looked, and they are there. I just didn't know. So this discussion, or excuse me, this meeting will not be addressing, or won't be me addressing the discussion unless somebody has questions about it. So this meeting is really the only thing we're going to talk about, at least on my end. The only thing I'm going to talk about, other than answering your questions, is the lab. Because a lot of people have started the lab, and I've also received questions about the lab. So that's what we'll talk about now that it's 11 o'clock and we have two people here. So let's go ahead and take a look at the lab. And then after I'm done talking about it, then I'll ask you two if you have any questions. So you two, you don't need to do anything. Well, I take that back. Do you guys have something to write with? Brian and Natalie, do you guys have
Yes.
anything you can take? Okay, good. So what I'm going to do
Yes.
throughout. All right, perfect. And Brian, you weren't here when I said this, but I am recording, so it's up to you whether you want to keep your camera on or off. That's completely up to you. Anyway, so for you two and anybody watching this video at a later date or later time, throughout this video, I'm going to give attendance words. And as I give those, you'll need to write those down. And after you're done watching the video, you're going to want to email me and say, hey, I'm claiming my extra credit for the week two meeting. And then include those extra credit words. And then also at the very end, I'm going to ask you, not in addition to the attendance words, I'm going to ask you to come up with one question based on this information that I gave today. So as I'm giving this information, just think about a question you might want to ask. So, even if at the end of it you think you understand everything, just come up with a question just to verify that you understood it the way you thought you understood it. So are there any questions
Thank
before we
you.
get started? All right.
No.
So, like I said, we're going to talk about the lab again, which is not due until this Sunday, but a lot of people have already started it, which is great, or turned it in, which is great. So let's take a look at it. And speaking of which, the first word for attendance will be lab, since that's what we're talking about. Now, by now, everybody should know this. So, but I am going to do it one more time. So please forgive me if you already know how to do this and you're watching this. But here's how you do a lab. As you can see on Moodle, you go to lab one, you open that, and then you can see this link. Click that link, and the document pops up. So this is the master copy. You don't have editing access to this master copy. So what you need to do is make yourself a copy. And I do this all on purpose. I want you to do it on Google Docs for a reason. I don't want to waste your time talking about it. So if you have questions about why I require you to do it on Google, then let me know. We'll talk about it separately. But anyway, here's how you do it. And the directions I'm about to give you, you can find right here. They're at the top of every single lab document. But here we go really quickly. You go to File, make a copy, and then you can name it whatever you want. And if you can remember this, I recommend hitting copy, comments, and suggestions. So that way, and I'll explain that here in a second. So do that, hit make a copy, and then boom, that's your copy. And then you can fill it out. Now, since once you do that and it's your copy, if the font is too big or too small or whatever, the spacing, if there's something you don't like, you can adjust it. So anyway, let's look at this very quickly. So what the feedback I'm going to give you is basically based on what I've seen so far, mistakes I've seen so far. So you can read about the relationship between a prediction and a hypothesis. I'm not going to give the answer away since this is not due until Sunday, but I will reiterate this. A prediction is an if-then statement that describes how you're going to test your hypothesis. So I'll come back to that idea here in a second. Question 1 and question 2 is pretty straightforward. No, so far as if I remember correctly, no one's missed this, but just make sure that your hypothesis matches your prediction. So if your hypothesis says it's going to increase, your prediction shouldn't say it's going to decrease. All right. Any questions about that? All right. The other thing, I'll mention this really quickly. Some mistakes I've seen. Make sure now when you go through this website and collect this data, it's not in the same order, right? This table, as it should be in science, is in the order of, it's in numerical order, right? We're starting at the highest temperature and working our way down. Now, when you do the lab, like when you go to the website, I think it starts like here and then goes down here and then down here and then up here and then up here. So pay attention to that. I've seen that mistake being made. Another mistake I've seen so far is there's been errors in the calculation of your averages. So here's a hint. Let's pretend like, forget this part, right? Let's forget that. Let's pretend like these are the only numbers you're working with. This average right here should fall between 40 and 46. You guys see that, right? Because that's the lowest number and that's the highest number. So you don't even need to take a calculator to check your work. If you have anything higher than 46 or lower than 40, you know what's wrong. Do you guys have questions about that? That makes sense? And then once again, down here, right? So the highest number is 15. The lowest number is 14. So if you have anything higher than 15 or lower than 14, you know it's wrong, right? Does that make sense? Everybody good there?
Yes.
All right. So that's a common mistake. The graphs, I will say, let me think about the common mistakes I've seen so far. Let's see. This is the big one. The lower temperature should be on the left and ascend to higher temperatures, right? So if you have a graph, I wish I could draw it, a picture in your mind, this L-shaped graph, and on the x-axis, which is the horizontal, your lowest numbers should be on the left and your highest numbers should be on the right, right? It would make no sense for you to have 26 degrees Celsius at the very left of the graph and then work your way to the right and have the lowest temperature, right? You start with low temperatures and work your way up. That's a common mistake. Another common mistake I've seen is to make sure you use a graph title and make sure you label your axes, and make sure your graph title describes the data and not the lab, right? So a bad name for the graph title would be Module 1 Lab or Goldfish Lab, right? The title of your graph should describe the data. Any questions on that? All right. Here's another common mistake, and I think I'm almost done. Let's see, where is it at? Oh yeah. So I need proof that you did the website or that you went through the entire website, right? So, and a few people have asked, what do I need to take a screenshot of? Well, put yourself in my shoes. You're doing this, right? Where are you at? Going to this website, and you have to get data from the website, right? And I need proof that you've gone through this entire website. So obviously, I shouldn't say obviously, I'm sorry. You're going to want to go through it, get all your data, put it in the table as I've described previously. And then eventually you're going to get to this lapsed website. This is what I need, right? I need a screenshot that shows you got to this page. That's it. It's pretty simple. Are there any questions on that? All right. A common mistake I've seen, people have done screenshots, so that's good. I'm glad that at least they included a screenshot, but their screenshot is a screenshot of this. Like, I don't need a screenshot of the document I'm already looking at, right? I need a screenshot that shows that you actually went through the process on the website. Really quickly, some other common mistakes I've seen is this part right here. What was your hypothesis at the beginning of the lab, and was it correct or incorrect? Did it increase, decrease, or stay the same? This is a 3-part question. A number of people have not done all 3 parts. As you can read here, I know it's redundant, but you'd be surprised how many students forget their own hypothesis and don't even bother to look at it again. And you'd be surprised at how many students incorrectly compare their hypothesis to their data and draw the wrong conclusions. So yes, it is redundant and it will happen throughout the semester, but you will get these multiple part questions. So are there any questions about the hypothesis thing? All right. This is another common mistake. So other than doing this experiment in real life as opposed to virtually, how can this experiment be improved? Another way to ask is, other than doing this experiment virtually as opposed to in real life, what are some of the flaws in the experiment? So what I'm asking you here, and you can read this yourself, pretend the experiment you did wasn't online. Pretend you were really doing that in real life, and you're a scientist and you're trying to figure out how to improve the experiment you did. So a common answer I'm seeing, which I like what you guys are saying in a way, is it's hard to count the breaths. And I know that, but that's a flaw in the website. I have no control over that, and that doesn't address the question. Pretend you're a scientist and you're trying to get better data. What can you do if this was a real life experiment to make your findings more clear? Any questions about number 17? All right. Another common mistake is, why do you take an average? Not common, but a few people forgot to include a link to the source, so don't forget to do that. This part, so far this semester, I've actually seen a new mistake that I haven't seen very often. The first question says, do you think these results can be applied to all goldfish or just the goldfish in the experiment? And then the next question says, do you think these can be applied to all fish or just goldfish? Now, if you think that your results cannot be applied to all goldfish and only the goldfish in your experiment, then it stands to reason that you should not think that the results can be applied to all fish. And some people have done that. So they said, no, it can't be applied to all goldfish, only these goldfish. But then they go on to say, yes, it can be applied to all fish. All right, that makes no sense, because if you think they can only be specifically applied to the goldfish in your experiment, then it wouldn't make sense that you could apply it to all fish. Does that make sense, everybody? Does anybody have questions?
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, okay, good. I don't think I've seen many problems on question 21. Here we go. Really quickly. Question 22 is asking you to create another hypothesis, which is a tentative answer to a question that you can test, right? Here's the question. Does the respiration rate of goldfish increase as they are exposed to increasingly louder noises? Really, when you get really simple, there's only two basic hypotheses. Yes, it does increase, or no, it doesn't, right? That being said, one of the common mistakes I've seen, and I don't think I've deducted points for this, but a lot of people are saying if then, if then, if then. You don't need to say if then for the hypothesis. The hypothesis is simply just saying, answering the question. And it's an answer that we can test or not. And also, I'll warn you of this. A few times I've seen this mistake. You also don't want to get too wordy in your hypothesis, right? So I've seen, like, for example, one person put, yes, the respiration rate of goldfish will increase as they are exposed to increasing louder noises because they get stressed. Now, that's the problem, is because they added because they get stressed. Because once you add that to the hypothesis, that means you have to test it, right? So unless you plan on testing that, then you shouldn't include it in your hypothesis. Anyway, any questions about that question? All right, almost done with this. Does the respiration rate of goldfish increase? Oh, excuse me. So then you have your hypothesis that you wrote here. Then you're supposed to write a prediction based on your hypothesis. Now, this is when you're supposed to have the if-then statement, right? So you're supposed to say if, then, right? And it's supposed to describe how you're going to test your hypothesis. So any questions about question 23? All right. And then I guess the only other mistake I commonly see is you need to make sure you save it as a PDF before you upload it. And I didn't show that at the beginning of this meeting. So really quickly, let me show you. Once you're done, let's pretend like this is your or my document and I'm a student and I'm ready to submit it. Now that I'm done with it, I'm going to hit File. I'm going to hit Download as a PDF. Once I download it and it's on my computer or my device, then I'll come back here and I'll scroll down to the bottom. And again, pretending like I'm a student, it'll have a submission button, and then I'll upload the file. And that is how you do the first lab. So that out of the way, do either one of you have any questions about the lab in general? Something that I didn't cover?
Yes. When you was talking about the screenshot, at the bottom of this document right here, it states of entering another or a screenshot of like a picture.
Bottom of this document that I'm looking at?
It's at the bottom, yeah.
Let's see, extra credit. How can this worksheet be improved? Hold on, I'm going to search this document for the word screenshot to see what you're saying. Screenshot. That's it. So screenshot is only mentioned in that spot, not at the bottom.
Okay, that must be on another document than I was looking at.
Perfect. Well, good question though. I'm glad we clarified that. Are there any other questions about the lab? All right.
No, so as soon as we're done, we just upload it like you said and send it, right?
Yeah, once you upload it, yes. Yeah. So that being said, really quickly, I'm just going to pull this up, and I'm not going to talk much about it because I've already talked about the discussion in our first meeting. But whoop, here it is. So looking at the discussion, do you guys have any questions about the discussion? Excuse me, hold on. Before I answer that, your next word for attendance is the word start. Start, as I just highlighted right here. Start is the next word for attendance. Anyway, so I'm sure you guys have looked at the discussion by now. It's your initial post is actually past due. So if you haven't done it, go ahead and do it. It's the first module, so I'm being pretty lenient on the due date. So just go ahead and get it done if you haven't. But are there any questions about this, since you guys have presumably already looked at it and maybe even possibly have even submitted it? I hope. Any questions?
Yeah, I have
Oh, good.
done the discussion. I just was wondering, I think maybe that's where I seen the other screenshot thing at, maybe. I just could have sworn I seen two of them, but it might have been not.
Nope, nothing here on the screenshot either. No.
Okay.
Here you just need to just answer these questions. Actually,
Yes.
I see something here. Using a source other than define biology. Of course, I know that was already on there, but I just want to make sure that's clear. But anyway, yes. And I'll say this again, even though I already said it in the first meeting, but it's worth repeating.
Mhm.
A major theme you're going to see throughout the semester in these discussions is I'm going to ask you, it's like, hey, answer this. Tell me what the textbook says about this. Then look up another source and tell me what it says about this. And then just give me a couple or a few sentences where you compare and contrast the two. That's the common theme that you're going to see throughout this semester. And another thing I want to reiterate to make things easier for you guys is, like, see here, you only need to do 2 bullet points. Two bullet points, which
Yeah.
means, for example, you like, let's say you wanted to do 1 and 2, you wouldn't have to do all this, right? You could just do this bullet point and this bullet point. So anyway, any questions about anything?
No.
All right.
Sounds good.
Well, next week we will meet at the regular time and we will discuss. It'll be like really quickly. We will discuss some of the mistakes that were made in Module 1, and then I'll give you some advice on what to do in Module 2. So, just one. Oh, good. There's 3 of you now. Just to be sure, one more time, so you guys don't have any questions while we're here meeting, right? Because questions are
None that I
good.
can think of.
What's that? I'm sorry. Okay, you
None
said
that
you're
I
good.
can think of. Yeah, I think I'm good.
Perfect. All right. Well, if you think of anything, let me know. Then in that case, the last word for attendance is actually going to be letters instead. It's going to be the letters of the people in this meeting. So N, B, J, V. So N, B, J, V will be the last words for attendance. And again, you're going to need to email me those to get your extra credit, and also come up with one question from that you want to ask me on the video. Like, again, even if you think you understood everything I said, just come up with a question to make sure that you actually did understand me. And that's good. That was a nice short video, or excuse me, video too, but a nice short meeting. So I'm going to hang up, or first I'm going to stop recording, then I'm going to hang up. And if you guys need me, I guess just shoot me an email.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. Thanks for coming.